Hey, today we are going to be talking about lowering your taxes in retirement. By far, this is one of the most asked questions that I get from all of my clients. How do I lower my taxes in retirement? So today we're going to go through every single step of retirement before you retire, early retirement years, and when you get older, and how you should be planning today for each of those events. So let's hop right in. What I want to do first is go over what it would look like and typically how people start to draw down from their assets if they don't know how this works. So in their working years, all right, so let's go here, let's split the three sections. Most people have a traditional IRA. So that's where we're going to start. This is ground zero. You're working, you're contributing to your traditional IRA, and as you put money into that account, you're not paying taxes on it, you're deferring the taxes. So the dollars are being deducted from your income today, but they're growing and you're not paying taxes on them. But when you take them out in the future, you're going to have to pay taxes on them. So typically your working years are going to be your higher tax years. So that's why a lot of people, they just stick to this traditional IRA because they're making a lot of money. They're like, okay, I need to, cut down so I don't have to pay so many taxes right now. But you can control where you save here. But typically what happens is if somebody retires, as soon as they retire, they turn on Social Security, and they've never drawn down from these assets before. So what ends up happening is they kick the can down the road, and they might take a little bit of money out here, just a little bit out here, and here to supplement for their expenses. But they live what I call a just-in-case retirement. They are a little worried about drawing money out of their accounts. But then what happens here, okay, so let's say that this guy's 50 and he's like some of the people that we work with who have $1 million in their IRA. And let's just say, okay, so let's say he's earning 7%. At 7%, your money doubles every 10 years. So let's say he hits early retirement here at 60 and it's grown to 2 million. He retires at 62, starts drawing Social Security, and he's not really taking any money out. It's continuing to grow and grow. Well, it's doubling every 10 years. And then at 70 and a half, he's got 4 million in. Okay, so what it looks like from a graph standpoint is like this. And I'm just gonna draw over everything I've done here. High taxes, low taxes, and then when you get here, what ends up happening is RMDs. Required minimum distributions. Uncle Sam is going to call at age 70 and a half and say, hey, you have to take out 4% of this, and it's going to scale up each year based on your life expectancy. So now you've got $160,000 because that's 4% of this number coming out each year's taxable income. So you went right from there back up to the high tax years. So that is typically how people ride that wave. So let's talk about how you fix that. All right, so let's talk about the working years. The working years of before retirement is really where you can go in and make the biggest impact. Make sure you download the corresponding worksheet that comes with this so you can follow along. So a couple things to keep in mind with the working years. So you've got the high tax rates. You can't really do anything about that. You're making high W-2 income, but you can control where you save. And this is really where you solidify IRA traditional. What happens with this account is you put money in, you deduct it from your income, it grows, but when you take it out, when you take that money out, you pay ordinary income tax on it. We'll call that OIT. So whatever your ordinary income tax is, that's what you will do. With that one, you've got a Roth 401k. This one is different from a Roth IRA. And it's really just the limitations that are there. The Roth 401k, when you pull the money out, you pull it out tax-free. Same thing with this guy. But the difference between the two is with the Roth 401k, it has to come from your employer. So if you're working somewhere that provides one of these, the amount that you can put in each year is about $26,000, and there are no income limitations on it. Whereas with the Roth IRA, if your employer doesn't have it, you can't really go out and affordably create a Roth 401k. They're very expensive plans. If your employer provides it, you can use it. You should have them match it, and you can put up to $26,000 a year, and you have no income limitations. And with the Roth IRA, you can put in $7,000 per year if you're over those. Both of those numbers are if you're over age 50. So with the bottom two, whenever you put the money there, you're going to pay income taxes on it today, but you're not going to pay it in the future. So, and once we roll into the early retirement, we'll really show you how you should spend the assets from a tax saving standpoint. But the Roth money is really the money that you want to spend last. So you don't want to go in to retirement and start spending Roth money right away, because in the future taxes are going to go up. So if taxes are going to go up in the future, it makes sense to go ahead and pay taxes on the money today in a Roth IRA or a Roth 401k if you have access to it. That way you can have a nest egg that is growing over time, that if tax rates go way, way up, and think about it, they probably will. I mean, a third of all the dollars in circulation were printed last year alone. So, and the government deficit's crazy. I mean, they've got to go up. So when you're looking at a long-term tax strategy, go Roth. Another bucket that you've got is non-retirement assets. So that this is going to be like CDs at a bank, or you've got a brokerage account. A brokerage account is an after-tax stock account, and those are treated as long-term capital gains. And that's a 15% tax on those. So that's just an asset that's held longer than a year. So if you don't have the ability to do a Roth 401k and you're over the income limit for a Roth IRA, which is $208,000 married filing joint in 2021, if you're over the limit, the next best place to go is here. The only reason I think that if you have the ability to do the Roth, that this is better, is because this can be changed. That 15% tax rate that's there today, but in the future it could go up. I mean, Biden wants to make that like ordinary income tax. So what you can control is where you save the money. And then now let's talk about right whenever you go into retirement, where should you spend first? All right, so let's talk about your early retirement years. This is really where you're going to be able to make that impact. If you remember in the first graph where I drew the the graph, and it went from ultra high tax right before retirement, very low tax, and then high again. We're going to talk about how to smooth the ride early into retirement. So when you look at your assets, you're going to have a few. You're going to have an IRA. Okay. Let's go in order that people normally have. You've got an IRA, you've got Social Security, you've got non-retirement money, and then you've got Roth. Okay, so when you look at each of these buckets, typically what happens is like that graph that I drew at first. Whenever people start right in retirement, they drop to those ultra low tax years because they don't take any money out of their IRAs. And then the account grows and grows and grows. And then at age 70 and a half, they have to start taking RMDs and dishing off money. So what you can do in your early retirement years is you can start taking the money out of your traditional IRA. So let's call that one traditional. So we would look at whatever the income gap is. Let's say that you have that $1 million in your 401k here. So we're at $1 million. If we're at $1 million and you want to take $40,000 a year in income and you're 62, you could turn on Social Security, and most people do. But this is going to grow at a defined 8% per year. And if you make under a certain amount, there's less tax that's due on Social Security. So if we come here and we take out that $40,000 each year, what we'll do is will even out the tax years. So you won't see that dip down. You'll start to draw out of this account while this one grows at a defined 8% per year. So you'll allow yourself to not dip like that. And some people even come here to non-retirement and Roth money, but I would not pull money from there until you have to. This is the last money that you want to spend, because in the future tax rates are going to go up. So this is going to be worth a lot more than this money. So right now this money's worth more, or it's not worth any more, but from a tax strategy, if tax rates go up another 10%, well, this money's worth 10% more than this money. So neither one of them are, it's not the game right now, it's in the future, where will it be? So the traditional IRA, if you can look at whatever your income gap is, and in your early retirement years start to draw some of that money there and allow this Social Security to grow 8% per year, that's a defined 8%. So it's gonna go up and up and up. And also your spouse will get that one too. So let these assets grow. Let this one grow if possible. And then right in your early retirement years, if you have the ability to, go in and start drawing whatever you need as far as income out of your traditional accounts. All right, so let's talk about post 70 and a half. This is going to be whenever you are up in age and you are looking at the best way to take those assets. So here we have got that nice 3-letter word involved, RMD. RMDs are required minimum distributions based off your life expectancy at age 70 and a half. They're going to be 4%. So for instance, if I have $1 million in an IRA, they're going to say, okay, you've got 1 million. You have to take 4%, take 4% out each year, so we can get $40,000, and we want you to pay tax on that $40,000. So that's, Uncle Sam does that every year so that they can start, you kick the can down the road, haven't paid any tax on the money, and they want you to start taking some of that money out. So in the last video, how we did this was we started taking the income gap out of the traditional IRA first to make this traditional IRA account less, so that the tax burden wouldn't be as much, and then you can start to supplement with that Roth money. So this is really where we're going to start looking at taking some of those Roth funds off for income. So we're going to take Roth income here as you get older, because that money is going to be worth more and more as tax rates go up and up and up, because you've planned early in your retirement to start diversifying and have that Roth bucket that's there as well. Now, another thing that you can do once you're to this age, I mean, even if you have a good size 401k or IRA here that's pre-tax, what you can do is you could start looking at gifting strategies. So you can gift money to your kids, to your grandkids. You can take, we call them QCDs, qualified charitable distributions, to your church or charity. If you have a set amount that you pay them each year, what a lot of people will do is the standard deduction in the United States is about $25,000 for a married couple. So what a lot of people will do is they'll actually take some of that RMD money. This lowers your RMDs, by the way, whenever you do the qualified charitable distributions. So when you take these QCDs down here, what happens is the money comes straight out of your pre-tax IRA into the charity or church, income tax free, and it's going to count towards those RMDs. So these are going to be less, and you're not going to pay taxes on it. So a lot of people, they'll just take money out of their 401k or IRA, pay ordinary income tax, and then give it to their church and deduct it. But the cleaner way to do it is to come down here and do the qualified charitable distributions, because there's absolutely no tax due on that. Now, it has to come straight from the IRA to the check has to be made from whoever houses your assets to the church or charity, but that is also something that can come in and be good. And two, you can give $15,000 to kids. That's another good way to have some of the money coming out. And then you've got your Roth income here. But the key to having the lowest tax bracket here is we spent down, like if you were that guy who went from $1 million at 50 to 2 million at 60, and we could spend down some of those assets to get them down to $1 million. Now your RMDs are going to be less. Whereas if you didn't touch the money at all and continued to let it grow and grow and grow, because let's say you just wanted to pass a massive amount to your kids through your IRA, then you would end up having these RMDs that are going to start hitting you, and the money's got to start coming out. So, and two, any Roth money, so that Roth money, and this is why I say spend it last, will go to your beneficiaries income tax free as well. So they won't have to do, for instance, let's say this passes to children. They have to do what's called a stretch IRA. So it's still an IRA for them, and they're actually going to have to continue to take these RMDs each year based off of whatever their life expectancy is. So they're going to have to pay tax on the money either. So no kids really like to get IRAs. You don't like to have the RMDs. So the best thing to do is to spend the money, early retirement, if you have the assets to cover your income gap, to get the account down and down. And then so you'll be using that for income. You allow Social Security to grow at the same time. And then you'll have that Roth money that's absolutely 100% income tax free there at the end. So that is how you go from that graph that I drew when you're looking at work, early retirement, and post 70 and a half. That is how you get it from going and looking like this to looking like this. I can't do anything about the working years, by the way, but, oh, let's go here. That's how you get it to go from that to that, because you've got the Roth there and you're taking income here. So you end up lowering your tax bracket and passing the money more beneficially to your heirs.